Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So, Hare Krishna, dear devotees, thank you so much for joining us today. Today is the penultimate session, so next time will be the last one, the 26th session. So today's 25th session, we wanted to talk about Devatas, or demigods, so they're also referred to as demigods. Demigods is a little bit of a derogatory term in many ways, demi gods. So Devatas is the word actually for these personalities that we will talk about. So we wanted to seek the blessings of Radha Madhav, Radha Shyamsundar, Krishna Balaram, God and Devatas, Srila Prabhupada, Gurudev. This is quite a controversial topic in many ways because when we come to this world, especially in Hindu families, then there's a certain way of worship which one gets used to because that's the way it's always been done. And the worship of Devatas is very commonplace. And one may have been brought up in the worship of demigods or Devatas. So today I may tell you things which you might find a little bit controversial, perhaps a little rude. But I'm giving this to you from the Vedic point of view, and I have no particular inclination or not against any personality at all. And we never should be against any personality. But we should understand that there are different levels of worship which give different results. And our human life is very short. So if we focus on the wrong avenue or route or path, then in this short period of time, we've lost a lot. But if we get it right, then in a short period of time, we'll make great progress. So the idea is to get it right. So what is the difference between God and Devatas or demigods? We've already been through a lot of the slides I'm going to talk through now, a few slides at least. What or who exactly is God? How to define God? Right? Well, definitions of God is He's the source of everything. This is from the Bhagavad Gita. He's complete. He's perfect. And when I say He, as we've talked about before, God in Hinduism is, or Sanatan Dharma, is not just male. God is female as well. And the counterpart, whether you refer to as Radha or Sita or Lakshmi, is equally powerful as the male aspect of God. God is the supreme controller. God is supreme proprietor and enjoyer. God knows everything, is omniscient. He's full of 6 opulences, which are wealth, strength, fame, beauty, knowledge, and renunciation as well. So, evaluating who exactly God is, many claim to be God, especially in India. We find, we often joke that there's a incarnation almost in every street corner, you know. So many people try to claim that they're God. So do they meet the above criteria, right? So who is God? Well, Krishna declares that he's God, which is an interesting start. In the Bhagavad Gita, he declares it. Aham Sarvasvabhav, 10:8 is the reference. And somebody declaring their God, but then also he's backing it up. There's so many references in the Bhagavad Gita and the Srimad Bhagavatam, wonderful scriptures of Krishna's position. In the Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna makes the same declaration, but then he also backs it up by saying that not just I think like this, but I know even the sages believe that you're God. And Lord Brahma's declaration is very important. He says, Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigrana Radhiradir Govinda Sarva Karana Karana. Krishna, who is known as Govinda, is the Supreme Godhead. He has eternal, blissful, spiritual body. He is the origin of all. He has no other origin. He is the prime cause of all causes. And then of the Trimurti, this is Lord Brahma here. And he's the secondary creator of this world. So he's praying, he's saying, Govinda Adi Purusham Tamaham Vachami. Govinda, who is non-different from Vishnu in many ways, is the origin of all, is the Supreme Lord. And Lord Shiva, we'll talk about him if we can today, otherwise we'll take it on next week. But he's a very interesting character, Lord Shiva. And this is Lord Brahma. This pastime is a fascinating pastime. I'm just thinking, should we go through it today or leave it when we talk about Brahma? We'll talk about it when we talk about Lord Brahma. Otherwise, it'll take too long. Now, God is also predicted in the scriptures in advance, right? For example, there's in the Padma Purana, it explains that I shall take birth as a son of Sachi, assuming a golden form in the beautiful place on the bank of the Bhagirathi, Ganga, on the earth in the first part of Kali Yuga. This is the appearance of Lord Chaitanya, which has been predicted in the scriptures. He performs extraordinary activities which attract everyone. For example, the lifting of Govardhan Hill. He gives divine knowledge, right? Bhagavad Gita. He shows his Virat Rup, universal form. If there is an incarnation of God, you can ask them, please, show us your universal form. He has a particular mission when he descends. And he has bodily signs on his palms and soles. So these are his on his soles, these markings will be there. And Krishna is regarded to be the source of all the avatars. We've seen this before. Krishna is regarded the cause of all causes. From him, all the other incarnations come. This is according to Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita, and also the Brahma Samhita. So this is who God is. So is there one God or is there many? There is one God with a capital G, and there are many gods. God basically means controller, smaller levels of control. But the Supreme Lord has full control over everything. There's one God, many Devatas. Right? This is again referenced to Bhagavad Gita 10.2. And the example is given of the king and the ministers. So, for example, in our country here, we have a queen, a wonderful person, who appoints a prime minister, who appoints a cabinet to run the country. In the same way, God appoints the first minister, who is Brahma, who then continues the creation process. And he has at his assistance amazing ministers who govern the whole universe. So what to speak of a little country like this? The governance of the universe takes some doing. So there are phenomenal personalities who govern the universe, but they're all appointed by Krishna. So who are the cabinet ministers? We have Brahma, we have Shiva, we have the sun god, Vivaswan, Soma, Chandra, moon god, Indra, Kuber, Yam, Raj, Vayu, Varun. Actually, there are 330 million demigods, 33 crore demigods. So it's a lot of demigods because it takes a lot to run a universe. But the person who gives them all the power is Krishna or Vishnu. Remember Krishna, Vishnu, Rama, one person, one God, many different forms. But the distinction is God is always God. Whereas these personalities, although extremely powerful, they get their power from God. And apart from Shiva, we can also get to the position of any of these Devatas. These Devatas, it's a position. Brahma is a position, just like the prime minister is a position. And different personalities can occupy that post, that role. So we shouldn't think that Brahma is the supreme personality of Godhead. No, it's just like a soul, like you and me, but an extremely powerful soul because of his tapasya and his penances and his prayers to the Lord. God has given him extraordinary power to be able to create the universe. Now, Shiva is the exception. Nobody can become Shiva. No Jiva can become Shiva. The reason being, when Krishna or Vishnu wants to touch this world, he becomes Shiva. So there's very little difference between Krishna and Shiva. The difference is Shiva is in touch with this world, directly in touch with this world. So we can't become Shiva. But we can become any of the other demigods if we so desire. Now that's not a desire that we want either, by the way. So what if Brahma has such incredible power? He will still die. At the end of 311 trillion, 40 billion years, he dies. So in the eternity of time, 311 trillion, 40 billion years is nothing. So it's a long life, but it's nothing. So our aspiration is to actually go back to the spiritual world and be in direct association with Krishna, because that's our eternal position. Not to be remaining in this world in different categories, sometimes demigods, sometimes humans, sometimes animal, like that. Okay, what's the difference between God and demigods? There are 33 crore demigods in this tiny, this is the smallest universe. So that picture we were seeing of Brahma earlier, that's the four-headed Brahma that we have in our universe. But other Brahmas in other universes have many, many more heads because they are bigger universes and they need more intelligence to run those universes. So there are different powers, positions assigned to them by the Lord. Krishna has no particular duties. Still, he works hard for the benefit of society. What makes Krishna different from demigods? When Arjuna wanted to see the universal form of Lord Krishna, he showed him very easily what has been described in chapter 11. All the demigods were manifesting from Lord Krishna, whether they were great demigods like Lord Shiva or Lord Brahma. So this is the point, right? They are manifesting from Krishna. No other demigod ever performed or tried to do such kind of transcendental activity of revealing their Brahma, their universal form. No demigod accepted that they are the Supreme Personality of God, or the source of all beings. But Krishna does so, 10.8. Aham sarva svabhavo. I am the source of material and spiritual worlds. Therefore, Krishna says, you should worship. Not that he's forcing that worship, by the way. He's saying that because he cares for us. And this will become apparent in a little bit now, a little bit of time. Not only this, but Krishna is also calls worshippers of demigods having low intelligence, because their fruits are temporary and limited. And this reference is 7.23 in the Bhagavad Gita. The worship of demigods is performed to get material benefits. This is why their fruits are temporary and limited. Generally, it's karma kanda. You will have heard of karma kanda activities in the Vedas. That's where it's like a business transaction. I'll worship you, my dear demigod, or my dear Lord, and you give me something in return. So it's like a business transaction. Whereas the worship of God in bhakti is not a business. We're doing bhakti. My dear Lord, I want to serve you. You're already serving me by giving me this body and a world around me. Now I want to do something for you without anything back in return. That's bhakti. But the demigod worship is a business. No demigod can liberate anyone from the material world. Worshippers of demigods go to the planets of the demigods, not to the spiritual world. The planets of the demigods are within the material world and they're subject to destruction. So this is a big difference. If you want to respect demigods, then worship Krishna. For example, if we respect our grandparents, the parents will automatically be happy, right? In this way, if we worship Krishna, all the demigods are satisfied to see that. In this context, Lord Shiva says to Parvati, Vishnu Aradha Param. Among all prayers, Vishnu worship is supreme. Lord Shiva himself chants the holy name all the time. Which is why he is considered the supreme Vaishnava. Vaishnava Nama Yatha Sambhu. This is really important point. If you see Lord Shiva, he's always in meditation, right, with the mala in his hands. He's actually meditating on a form of Vishnu called Sankarshan. The demigods gets powers from Lord Krishna, as described by Lord Brahma in the Brahma Samhita. And he splits it out. The goddess Durga is the external potency of Lord Krishna. Ganpati obtains power from the lotus feet of Krishna. And he gives other examples. So we're still talking about the difference between God and demigods. Rupa Goswami, one of the previous acharyas, after consulting various scriptures, analyzes the number of qualities attributed by various personalities. So he's worked it out. Right? 50 qualities the jivas can have. And if we have those 50 qualities in full, we are like Brahma. Add another 5 to the 50 qualities, and that is Lord Shiva. That is why we can never become Shiva. He's got 5 extra qualities, which we can never have. Add another 5 to Shiva's qualities, makes it 60. And that comes to the level of Vishnu. Hence why the jiva can never become Vishnu. He's always in the category of Vishnu. But add another 4, and we have Krishna, which I think may surprise many people. What are these 4 extra qualities? He has the most super excellent devotees. He performs the most amazing pastimes. He plays the flute more than anybody, better than anybody else. And what was the other one? He dances better than anybody, right? 4 qualities that distinguish Krishna even from Vishnu. Learned scholars in transcendental subjects have carefully analyzed the Saman Krishna to have 64 principal qualities. Of course, these are just the principle. His qualities are actually unlimited. There's no limit to his qualities. And the qualities are always increasing as well. Even Krishna doesn't understand the limit of his qualities because they're always increasing. One time he saw himself in a mirror in Dwarka and he thought, who is this amazingly beautiful person? He didn't recognize himself. All the expansions or categories of the Lord possess only some percentage of these attributes. Krishna has 100%. Then his Vishnu Tattva, the incarnations have 93%. Shiva has 84%. Jivas have 78%. So that equates to that 50, 55, 60 qualities. Now, other demigods like Brahma, Shiva, Surya, Ganesh, many other similar deities are worshipped by men in the mode of passion, urged on by the desire for material enjoyment. But those situated in the mode of goodness, Sattvagun, worship only Vishnu Tattva or Krishna. It is for this reason only that candidates for liberation deliberately reject the worship of demigods, although they have no disrespect for any of them. This is an important point. We should not disrespect the demigods. And there's a reason for that. We'll come to that in a little while. Anyone who thinks that God and the demigods are on the same level is actually called an atheist. This might be a bit surprising. Because of various demands or results. The people get the results because they're actually losing their chance to worship and love Krishna. This is why they are called atheists because they're worshipping demigods who will never be able to give them the ultimate result. They worship different demigods. They worship different demigods with self-desire, even though their self-desire will be fulfilled. They will never get purified. Yes, the demigods will give you the benefits, the material benefit. But so what? It's just made you a little bit more entangled in this world. On the other side, if they worship Krishna, even with some motive or desire, Lord Krishna is so kind that he purifies that selfish desire into selfless devotion. And there are examples of this. So we can, even if we have desires, I want a car. Yes, worship Krishna. Because you're worshiping the Supreme. Even if you have material desires, the Lord will act in such a way. He will provide you in such a way that it will purify you. And there's examples of this. There's Dhruva Maharaj. Initially, he approached Lord Vishnu with some desire. Right? He wanted a kingdom greater than his grandfather's, greater than Brahma's. So he prayed to Lord Vishnu. And he was a 5-year-old boy. And he did tapasya for 6 months. And he actually achieved his darshan of Lord Vishnu. When he saw the Lord, however, he was purified. And he said, Varam Nayache, I don't want anything. I've realized I was looking for broken pieces of glass, but now I found you, the diamond. So this is very powerful, very, very powerful. So let's just see this comment. 6 main gods. Actually, Shankaracharya doesn't say that. Shankaracharya's mood was a little different. He came to overcome Buddha's influence on Sanatan Dharma. And Buddha's influence was, don't look at the Vedas. Don't worship through the Vedas, because the Vedas were being misused. Shankaracharya came and he re-established the Vedas. But the Lord instructed him to not reveal his personal form to anyone. So Shankaracharya worshipped or taught the worship of the impersonal form of God, right? God has no form. But that's not actually correct. Shankaracharya didn't even want to preach like that. But Krishna said, you have to do this because you are my servant and I'd like you to do this. Shankaracharya is very obedient. He said, okay, I will. But his final instruction, he disobeyed Krishna. He said, Bhaja Govinda, Bhaja Govinda, Bhaja Govinda. He said, just chant the holy names of Govinda. And in fact, there's some other bhajans as well, which Shankaracharya has written, which glorify Krishna. So in Hinduism, in Sanatana, there's only one God. We have to understand that. That one God can have many different forms. He can be Krishna, Vishnu, Rama, Mach, Kach, Varaha, Nasim, Vaman, Pashuram, like that. So many different forms. One God. But there are many demigods, and the demigods are just like us, living entities, and we can also become demigods. On the other hand, we have the example of Bakasura. Now, Bakasura, he worshipped Lord Shiva, right? And Lord Shiva's mood is, whatever you want, you can have. As soon as Bakasura got what he wanted to kill Lord Shiva. This was his mentality. It was so crazy. So Krishna will never entertain that sort of desire. If somebody has that desire, Krishna will not give him exactly what he wants. He'll give it to him in such a way that it purifies him. This is one of the differences between Shiva and Krishna. But Shiva is very, very kind, very, very kind. He's so amazing devotee. And we will talk about him probably next week. So what is the constitutional position of the demigods, right? So where do they stand? We've sort of given an idea. Demigods such as Brahma, Indra, Agni, etc. are Jiva Tattva, as explained in the Brahma Samhita. So this is the verse. I adore primeval Lord Govinda, by whose conferred power are maintained the manifested potencies that are found to exist of all virtues, all vices, the Vedas, the penances, and all jivas, from Brahma to the meanest insect. So he's the source of Brahma all the way down. And Brahma is the head of the demigods. But Brahma himself clearly states, so he states that from the tiny insect to himself, all jivas, includes the demigods, spirits, demons, humans. And their jivas are given material bodies in this world. Demigods also have material bodies, although their bodies are superior, they're more powerful than our earthly bodies. The bodies of the demigods do not consist of earth, water, fire, air. Or maybe air is okay. Earth, water, fire. Their bodies are subtle. Subtle in the sense that they consist primarily of mind, intelligence, and ego. So that's why their bodies are very powerful and they have huge potential for enjoyment. Those bodies have huge potential for enjoyment, but they're still material bodies. They're just made from intelligence, mind, intelligence, and ego. So that's their constitutional position. Are the demigods under the influence of material modes? Right? We know Sattvagun, Rajagun, Tamagun. Right? We are impacted by those. Due to their past good karma, the demigods are given better facilities for enjoyment. Their sense enjoyment is also in the mode of goodness. So their enjoyment, the way they live, their attitude and mood is always Sattvagun. But unfortunately, being in Sattvagun may still prevent them from making spiritual progress. What sort of enjoyment is there under the mode of goodness? Well, Krishna describes this. Foods that are dear to me in the mode of goodness increase the duration of life, purify one's existence, give strength, health, happiness, satisfaction, etc. And then he talks about Krishna gives in the 17th chapter a list of many items which can be performed in the mode of goodness. Singing, dancing, drinking, speaking, everything pretty much. So the demigods have better facilities for enjoyment. Their bodies are made of Sattvagun, right? The subtle bodies, and are internally and externally situated in goodness. All the great sages are also situated in that way, but the sages have a little different focus. Their demigods are administrators, they're workers. They will run the universe for the Lord. But the sages are bhaktas. They are trying to assess, they're trying to get closer to the Supreme Lord through study or understanding or bhakti. But the demigods, they've attained their position because of their past karma, and it's a position of master-servant relationship with God. But they are given huge flexibility. They appear to be masters, but they're actually servants. And it's all temporary. Even if one is a demigod, you're still going to have to die. As I said before, Brahma dies, right? 311 trillion, 40 billion years, but he still dies. And that does not satisfy the spirit's soul, which looks for transcendental reciprocation with God. There is no being existing either here or among the demigods in the higher planetary systems who is free from the three modes of material nature. So this is from the Bhagavad Gita. Now, yes, they are under the influence of Sattvagun, but they're still influenced by the modes of nature. What is the position of the demigods? They're servants. They're different parts of the Lord's cosmic body in material world. Some examples. Mahendra, that's Indra, king of heaven, generated from the prowess of the Lord. The demigods are generated from the mercy of the Lord. Lord Shiva was generated from the anger of the Lord. Brahma from his sober intelligence. The Vedic mantras were generated from the bodily halls of the Lord, and the great sages, Prajapatis, generated from his genitals. Therefore, the demigods are super powerful and intelligent compared to human beings, their position is to establish balance, peace, religious principles. Srila Madhvacharya, one of the gurus in this parampara, has quoted from the Garud Purana to demonstrate that within this universe, those who take birth as demigods, great rishis, and pious human beings are all considered Shanta, saintly persons. Demigods are to be considered the most pious living entities within the three material modes of nature. So that's why we respect them. We should not insult them. They may not be the supreme, but they're wonderful servants of the Lord. That's why the respect is very important. The rishis are great saintly mystics of the universe who are able to travel at will to various planets, who cultivates mystic powers, are to be considered somewhat even below the demigods. See? So the demigods are to be afforded great respect, even more respect than the great saintly mystics. Those human beings on earth who perfectly execute the Vedic rituals are to be considered in the third or lowest category of Shanta, or saintly persons. But a devotee of the Lord is beyond the three modes of material nature. Right? Lord Krishna explains, one who is engaged in full bhakti does not fall down in any situation, at once transcends the three modes of material nature, and thus comes to the level of Brahman, at least Brahman. Therefore, one should cultivate the association of Uttam Adhikari, or pure devotee of the Lord. By serving the lotus feet of a pure devotee, one can enter the ocean of eternal happiness and experience his constitutional position as Krishna. The mercy of the Vaishnavas is unlimited, and one who has tasted that mercy becomes mad after the lotus feet of Krishna, not caring for the hallucinations of so-called material pleasure or mental speculation. The mercy of the Vaishnavas is substantial and as powerful as Krishna himself, whereas impersonal speculations and hopeless dreams of society, friendship, love merely constitute various means by which Maya cheats the souls and keeps them in perpetual frustration. So that's why we don't worship the demigods, because they are not considered to be the pure devotees who are beyond this influence of material nature. What is their knowledge of God, right? People worship demigods to gain material gains because they believe that demigods control the fate of all living beings. However, there are many instances that the demigods were not only bewildered, but also not aware of who Krishna is. We learn from the Bhagavatam that Lord Brahma, the creator of all beings, including humans, was bewildered who was Krishna and wanted to test Krishna and show his power, Brahma's power, by stealing all the cowherd boys and calves. So I won't go into that pastime, but it's a very interesting pastime. Maybe when we talk about Brahma next week, if we get a chance, we'll talk through this. King of heaven, Indra, did not know that Krishna was the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He wanted to test Krishna, as we learn from this verse. He sent the clouds. That's why Krishna lifted the Govardhan hill to protect the residents of Vrindavan from Indra's rains. And Krishna himself declares that he's the governing principle of the demigods. Those who in full consciousness, who know me, the Supreme Lord, to be the governing principle of the material manifestations of the demigods and all methods of sacrifice, can understand and know me, even at the time of death. Why do not demigods recognize Krishna as God sometimes? Krishna didn't want them to, right? Because of Krishna's leelas, who he himself arranges. And he wants everybody to participate in those leelas. Anything that happens with demigods or Krishna have ultimate good for welfare of the universe. Therefore, best to avoid judging demigods, as this may be offensive towards the demigods, especially for Lord Brahma and Lord Indra, judging some of their acts on material human level. The demigods are devotees of the Lord. Actually making offenses to Vaishnavas will degrade our progress in spiritual life. So now we're out of time, but I'll just give you a little idea. We wanted to do a session on different demigods. This is a much more detailed session, which we will do at our daily seminars. But if you just see, even Lord Indra, there's so much that is described about Lord Indra, who he is. And if you look here, we are in the 7th Manu at the moment, and Pundra becomes Indra. The next Indra, the 8th one, who will be king of heaven, is Bali. Bali Maharaj was the one who had the pastime with Vaman Dev. So there's a lot of information about Indra that we can share, but of course, time permitting, we'll probably do a very brief summary of who he is next week, and just get an idea of the other demigods as well, just so that we are aware. Surya Dev, again, so much information is available on who Surya Dev is and how he functions within our world. But again, next week, what we'll try to do is just give a little brief idea of who Surya Dev is and the importance of these devatas. But ultimately, we just need to understand that the position of the devatas is as subordinate to the Lord. He's their master, and they worship him. So I wanted to stop there, take any questions, if there are any questions. Are there any questions today? This might go against what your belief system, and apologies if it does, but I'm just giving it to you as we've learned it over the years. Yes, Smita, would you like to share anything?
Hi Prabhuji, hi Mataji. Thank you very much. It's very wonderful. I didn't know all these aspects about the demigods. As per my knowledge, I know there are 6 god and goddesses as per Shankaracharya, and there are Shaivas, Vaishnava, Shakteya, and Ganapatya and Shanmukha. But you say now it is Krishna is the ultimate god, and everybody is demigods.
Yeah, I mean, Krishna, Shiva, Krishna, Vishnu, Rama, they're all in one category. They're all supreme. One God, many forms. And then we have those who are servants, they're like devotees of God. But unfortunately, in our culture, sometimes it gets very much mixed up, and we don't really know who's who, which is important, because if we're worshipping a particular demigod, then we will end up possibly in the world of that demigod, but that's still in this world. And we've missed the whole, benefit of worshipping the Supreme and going back out of this world completely. So it's an injustice. That if we're not in knowledge of this, it's really not good for us, because we may just go down the wrong route,
Okay, thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Thank you very much for sharing as well. Huh? Thank you, really appreciate that.
Thank you.
And sometimes we can get the help of these demigods to go on the right path as well. Like, for example, worshipping Shiva, we can ask him to help us become closer to Radha and Krishna. Like that, even the demigods, when it's their birthdays or whatever, we can worship them and ask them for that blessing to become closer to Radha and Krishna, or Sitaram, whoever you're most happy with.
Yeah, good.
Prabhuji, all the information about like Brahma and all the information about Indra, so like how it's decided who the next Indra will be, is that all in like the Vedas and stuff?
Yes, it is. It's given in the Vedas. Those predictions are there in the Vedas.
Okay, so it's already basically laid out then.
It's already laid out. It is. It is. Because sometimes what happens is there may not be a qualified Indra. There may not be a qualified Brahma in the universe. So that time, the Lord himself takes that position. But he knows because he's seen what's coming, and he'll realize, okay, in that Manvantara, we're not going to have a qualified Indra. So I will become Indra. But yeah, they already know what we're going to be doing.
I see.
But we can change that through bhakti. That's one thing we can change, our destiny.
Okay. All right, Prabhuji. Should I put up the
Yes, please. Yes, please. Thank you. Okay. Thank you so much. Pari, so she has done another quiz for the last 9 chapters of Bhagavad Gita. So next week is the last session. And then I was thinking of starting off the Bhagavad Gita, maybe having a 1 or 2 week break and then start the Bhagavad Gita. We'll do chapter by chapter, life lessons from each chapter, and probably be a 26 sessions on that, on at the same time, if that's okay with everybody. So quiz.com 495408 if devotees would like to join. And Pari, you can share your screen. And thank you for not going to Wimbledon. Those who are in this country, of course.
The link, Lena, is on the chat, quiz.com.
So, are we waiting for anybody? We only got 5 at the moment. Oh, Lena.
Any devotees are still waiting to join?
We can make a start, I think.
Okay.
Look,
Right. So this is on the so this is on the second half of the Gita.
Yeah.
What does the Lord do so that Arjuna can see his universal form? Does he give him a new weapon, tells him to close his eyes, gives him divine vision, or tells Arjuna to recite a mantra? So it was the fact that he gave him divine vision. That was the correct answer. Why does the Lord show Arjuna his universal form? He does anything for his devotees. He wanted to look bigger than Arjuna. He wanted to show his fearsome form, or all of the above. it was because he does anything for his devotees. It is better to worship Krishna's impersonal form, personal form, both or none. So, mix, but it's actually personal form. That's the best to worship him in. The three modes of nature are goodness, laziness, anger, passion, inertia, kindness, ignorance, lust, kindness, or goodness, passion, and ignorance. It was the last one. This one has 3 correct answers. So a demonic being says I all the time, has lust, anger, and greed, is mostly in the mode of passion and ignorance, or is healthy and knowledgeable. Yep. So the first 3 were correct. Which is the best mode to be in? Ignorance, goodness, bhakti, or passion? And bhakti was the correct answer. What is the 18th chapter called? The end of the Gita, the conclusion, the perfection of renunciation, or conclusion, the perfection of renunciation? So the last one is the correct answer. Krishna compares happiness with nectar and toxins, nectar and poison, honey and poison, or syrup and poison.
Good.
Nectar and poison is correct. The destination of predominant ignorance is greed, foolishness, heavenly planets, or being born in the animal kingdom. So where do you end up while being completely ignorant? And yep, animal kingdom is correct. Last question. The effulgence of the Lord's universal form is equal to a sun, 50 suns, hundreds of suns, or thousands of suns. Thousands of suns is the correct answer. So yep, the results are loading. And in third place, we have Lokeshwar. Second place, we have Nikhilesh Babuji. First place, we have Riha.
Well done, Riha. Lokeshwar as well. Who was the other one?
And Nikhilesh Babuji, Riha, and Lokeshwar.
Well done, Nikhilesh. Fantastic. Thank you. You got everything right, Nikhilesh. It was just a bit slow, I think, in some of the answers, but very, very good. Well done, Nikhilesh.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Fantastic. You know, if you get it right once, you become a committee member. If you get it right twice, you become the chairman of the committee. And then third, you become a trustee.
It's almost like the abode, the hierarchy of God.
Where are you based, Nikhilesh?
I am based out of London in Borehamwood, north of London.
Okay, wonderful. And thank you for joining. Really good. Appreciate it. And thank you, everybody. So we
face-to-face meetings sometime, Prabhuji, I don't know.
Sorry?
Are there some face-to-face meetings planned or sessions of this kind?
There's one more coming up next Sunday.
Face-to-face, is it?
Oh, face-to-face. Yes, definitely. Face-to-face, we're going to be opening a center in Coulsdon on 19th of August, hopefully. and
Janmashtami
Day. And then we'll be having constantly sessions there.
Sure.
So face to face, that would be fantastic to meet. Actually, it's a little far from you, but
That
okay,
should be fine. But I'm in India that time, so that's the only chat.
no, that's okay. After that, when you come back, we'll be there.
Sure.
We're not going anywhere.
No, absolutely.
Very good. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank
Hare
you.
Krishna, everybody. See you next week. Hare Krishna, Priti. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Thank you. Thank you for darshan.
Oh,
Hare Krishna, Pari.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.